You're live. Good.
Operations meeting is coming to order, February 28, 2023. Could we have a roll call, please?
John Gray, you're here.
Here.
Ruth Dries, here. Joyce.
Yes.
Riggs is here. Richard Handelsman's absent. John Hess is here.
Here.
Olga Wolkenstein, you're here. Bobby Levin, I saw you. David Boaz, you're here. I apologize, I have the wrong list with me.
All right.
I believe that's it. Yeah, we have a quorum.
Maureen and David Boaz?
7.
David Boaz, everybody's here?
I called their name.
Okay. Did you do the officers too? Just for the record.
Excuse me, do you have John Hess?
Yes.
Yes, I have David Israel's absent, Ed Grossman's absent, Don Bernaggio.
Here.
He's here.
Here. Sarah Richland is here. Fausto, you're here. Patricia's here. Bob Rivera's here. I'm here.
Thank you very much. Hopefully everybody looked over the minutes. Are there any corrections to the minutes? If there are none, I would like to entertain a motion to accept the minutes as presented.
Still made.
Okay, motion made by John Hess and seconded by John. All in favor?
Yeah.
Unanimous. Okay. Ms. Monica, you're up.
Thank you, Fausto. Good afternoon, everybody.
Use your mic, honey.
I don't have a mic.
Yeah, you do.
Sorry.
Oh, you don't? I'll get you one.
No, there's a spare.
Just
Okay. Today we're looking at the statement of operations for the 2 months ending December 31st. Your total income for the month of December, $1,122,000. Expenses for the month, $1,186,000. So we had a loss of $65,000 for the month. For the 2 months, our total revenue is $1.5 million. Expenses $1.6 million. We have a loss of $132,000. We had actually budgeted a loss for those 2 months of $159,000. So we have a positive variance of $27,000. If you look down the right-hand side of your page under the variance column, you'll see two very large numbers in your income and your expenses. The first one under the expenses is under your income is reserve revenue, $706,823. That's the use of the reserve money to cover the HVAC project costs. And under maintenance and repair, you will see a variance of $678,000. But if you recall, we had, at the time we prepared our budget, we assumed that the HVAC project was going to be completed 100% by the end of the last fiscal year. Well, we all know here we are, still waiting on parts, and the project's still moving forward. So the revenues is covering the expenses that we had not budgeted. Does that make sense to everybody? Okay. At the bottom is your social activity summary. For the month of December, between your theater and dances, we collected $30,000 in income. Your expenses for your theater, dances, and movies totaled $25,818, so we had a profit of $4,375 for the month. For the 2 months, the income from your theater and dances was $40,000. For the theater, dances, and movies, we paid $46,000, so we have a loss of $6,600, which is right in line with what we had budgeted. We budgeted a loss of $6,200. Any questions? Okay. The next report is your cash balances report. As of December 31st, our total operating funds were $999,000. Funds still remaining in your windstorm deductible reserve, $765,000. In our contingency infrastructure and improvement reserves, $352,000. So your total reserve funds, $1,117,000. Your total available cash, $2,116,000. Any questions? Okay. Next is your social activities, profit and loss report. This is for the month of January. During January, there were 4,492 tickets sold to your theater performances. The gross sales were $57,180. When we reduce that for our audience view costs and sales tax, our net sales are $50,523. The performers were paid $69,900. So we have a loss for the month of $19,376. For your 4 dances, there were 878 people attending your dances, for which we paid $1,390. For your 4 movies during the month, 550 people attended the movies, and we paid $1,284. When you add the movies, the dances, and the theater performances together for the month of December, it was a loss of $22,000. The next report is your estoppel report. This is also through January. For the 3 months ended January 31st, there were 149 units sold in this community. At the same period the prior year, 179 units, so that's a decrease of 30 units or 17%. The same trend I'm seeing in all 3 communities. There's just not the amount of inventory available that there was in the prior year, so we're seeing declining number of resales in all the communities. This year, from the 149 estoppel requests that we fulfilled, we collected $31,190. In the prior year, we collected $38,940, so it's a decrease of $7,750. Next report is your revenue collected from guests. This is also through the end of January. Total box office sales to residents were $69,506. Guest sales at the box office were $36,000, so the total box office sales $105,000. That represents 5,785 tickets sold to residents, 2,411 sold to guests. Total ticket sales $8,186. Your guest fees that are included then in those box office sales, remember it's $3 for each guest. It's added to the regular ticket price. For the 3 months, $7,233. Guest passes that were sold in the ID office, $11,145. Guest passes sold in the staff office, another $3,066. So for the 3 months, we collected $21,444 in total guest fees. The next report we're going to hold off on until Dan circles back to the HVAC. Did you want to do that now, Dan, or did you want me to finish? Go ahead and finish?
Yeah,
Okay. The only other thing we had under the agenda for me is an update on the horrible insurance market. Just briefly, I listened to a webinar a couple of weeks ago of the status of the insurance market in the state of Florida, and it is dire. I'm sure a lot of you may have heard this as well. I just want to share with you a few takeaways from that webinar. that one of the serious problems is we have a real lack of wind capacity in the state of Florida. What that means is there's, excuse me, there's a limited number of carriers that are now willing to write wind coverage in Florida. In the last year, there's been about 11 carriers that have either left the state of Florida completely or have gone bankrupt. So there's a significant restriction in the wind capacity. Some of the carriers that are still writing wind in Florida have reduced their amount of capacity. So, you know, if they were doing 100 million before, now they're saying, oh, we're only going to do 75 million. So that's not good news for Florida, but that's what's going on right now. Another thing I learned that was very surprising, I've never heard this in all the years I've been working with insurance, is I learned that a lot of the insurance underwriters now, and we're talking about property insurance, of course, the insurance underwriters are starting to question the valuations on properties and are challenging what the appraisers are valuing properties at.
In which direction?
In our favor or not?
No, not in our favor. For example, if an appraiser is saying, okay, this building is worth $100 a square foot, they're saying, well, we're not going to insure this building unless you're willing to increase the insured value to $125 a square foot.
How does that compare to the ad valorem? Is it tracking with the actual?
How does that compare to what? I'm sorry?
The market value of the property.
Well, what they're
Is it
saying
true?
is
What I'm-
typically, first of all, in the state of Florida, we have the highest increase in construction cost, without a doubt. In the United States, this past year, Florida has the largest increase in construction costs. Dan can certainly confirm that. I mean, typically they said, you know, the values of insurance appraisals will go up, you know, somewhere on average around 9 or 10%. And they said, you know, we could be looking at a 25% increase in valuation. Having said that, the last time I had our properties appraised was in the spring of 2020. So just last week I ordered new appraisals. So we'll see where that comes out, but I won't know probably for another 6 weeks or so probably how we come out. But it's not going to go down, it's only going to go up, and we'll see what happens when we go out to market in a few months for insurance. One other thing that I really hated hearing, and you will hate hearing as well, and then I'll wrap this up. You know, in recent years, we've had windstorm deductibles of 3%. Well, now the norm is 5%. The insurance agents on this call said that they are not only seeing 5% across the board, there's no more 3% deductibles. Everybody's at 5 or higher. They are seeing 9, 10, and 15% windstorm deductibles coming from the carriers. So, even their all other peril deductibles, the carriers, typically that's $5,000 for like fire or something like that. Those are all being increased in Florida policies as well to at least double of $10,000. So, it's not good news. I don't know what to think or to expect when we go out to market for insurance this year. I will share with you that I was contacted last week by Tom, is it Latocha? Yeah. He reached out to me because he was particularly interested in a contact to get in the Boca Century Village. Primarily he's interested in their condo insurance, but he also expressed an interest in throwing his hat in the ring for the properties, the insurance programs for all 3 of our communities. So I don't know how you guys feel about that. He's the only agent that has contacted me, because nobody wants to do the work to bid the insurance anymore unless they have a very good feeling they have a chance of getting the program, because it is an awful lot of work, and with the limited number of property carriers in the state, it's very difficult to have even more than one insurance agent to properly bid our insurance.
If I could. Last week I went to the HOA condo and downtown, and they gave us a heads up, 50% insurance rate increase for next year from what was updated from this year. And they brought up exactly the same fact, that the insurance company are squealing that the buildings are being undervalued. So, and they said that a lot of insurance companies will not, unless the building is revalued to what they feel the building, they're not gonna wanna insure it.
Yeah,
So it's coming down the pipe.
yeah, exactly, no doubt. Any other comments or questions?
I just have a question. Why are construction rates in Florida so much higher than the rest of the country?
One, we're booming. We have not slowed down, and the rest of the country, as you can see, the housing markets are going down, you know. So here, the housing is going up, and most of the areas are staying high or up. So they're building like crazy. We were just looking at down at Boynton, for Lions Road.
Road.
The GL Homes has bought all that land, all the way down. I mean, it's been a fight for them back and forth, but they've stolen property even from people trying to get industrial parks made just for storage areas, or even kicking out nurseries and any of the landscapers. We know of one that to get that land, you know, because they have it hooked up. Basically, it's just going to be building for the next 5-10 years without a problem. But I see the amount of land that's out there to build on. You know?
Yeah,
Thank
well,
you.
to put it into perspective, an article written in May of 2022 states that we have over 845 new residents moving into Florida every day, and they anticipate that will be for the next 3 years from May of 2022. And another article says that from April 20 to April 21, well, that was over 333,000, but from July 2021 to July 2022, Florida's population grew by over 22 million people. We can tell that difference on the roads with the traffic.
And what was the square footage price? I can't even tell you on some projects, because what was the square footage for renovation compared to new construction has gone up so drastically that nobody here could give me an accurate amount. And if you go out there to try to find out exactly, because it really depends on the area too, but it's crazy. You know, $75 a square foot, that's gone, you know, for the renovation. That's just, it's ridiculous. Plus, they're still having a very hard time getting materials. The materials for cement products, okay, air conditioning equipment, it is a crazy world out there right now. And some of these like Carrier and also Train have handed out, now we used to go directly to Carrier and purchase prices from the vendors. Now they pick this outside source person, okay, that they have to go through. Some of these people were never trained properly. Okay, and the new equipment, like I mentioned this last month before, the EPA made a lot of changes to the air conditioning equipment, okay? So they had to adapt all that in the last 2.5 years. So it's been a big change in that industry also, and the cost of that has increased also.
Thank you.
I just want everybody to, if you go onto the page where theater performances, we took a $20,000 loss. Out of 9 shows, 6 were losers. So I know that we're going to be talking very soon about next year's theaters, but we need to do something. You know, I mean, I can understand paying for the dances and paying for the movies, but when you're paying someone $10,000 and 300 people show up, the shows are not what this community wants to see, or the people just don't care. but a $6,700 loss on one show is a substantial loss. Remember that, because next month, we'll probably be voting on some shows and what the rates for the theaters and stuff is going to be.
Also, having said that, I know there's a lot of grousing about the theater right now, so I took a look to see last year, the fiscal year ended October 31st. The loss for the theater was $81,000. Yeah, so this year, with what our current sales are for the season as of now, plus what if we did exactly the same amount of sales over the non-season that we did last year, we look like we're gonna be right in that same ballpark, but we do have the whole month of March for sales for the theater. So hopefully it will be quite a bit less than what it was in the prior year.
Well, last year, we lost almost $100,000 between the movies, the dances, and the theater. So, but to start off in 1 month to lose $20,000, and we lost money last month, there's an issue here, and we need to address it, and I will address it.
John?
How do we, as far as our theater goes, how do we compare to the other Century Villages losses?
You're the lowest of the three.
But still, it's not
I
100,000.
happen to have the ticket sales comparison
Yeah.
for the three. This community is about the size of Pembroke Pines when it comes to total number of units. So far for November through February shows, they've sold just over 13,000 tickets, and we've sold 12,543 in this community. Boca, which is significantly smaller, has sold 15,470 tickets
But
for
Boca,
the exact same shows.
Boca has a different clientele than we have.
Correct, they are still predominantly Jewish, I think 80%.
All three communities are very, very different.
Right.
All
One's a
respects.
Hispanic community, one's a Jewish community, and one's homogenized community.
Do you have any idea what percentage of the other Century Villages are outside of Century Village non-residents that go to their shows?
I do not, because the other communities don't have no interest in tracking that.
Because if we lost 1/3 of our sales of non-residents that go to the shows, we'd be losing a lot more money.
Yes, you would be, because your guest revenue is significant in this community. It really is.
So
It's a nice contributor to your income stream. John?
Costa, when do we talk about the next year's shows?
March 13th.
Next month.
No, March 13th she's coming.
Okay,
That's next month. Today's the last day of February.
All right.
I've said for a couple of years, you know, we'd do a lot better if we'd had a lot different shows, you know?
I agree.
You know, same old shows every year. Yeah.
But they cost.
Oh, the majority
John,
of them
I
are
have
same
been
old shows.
preaching this, that there should be different shows, and what, I don't care what the other Century Villages do.
That's
I
right.
think different shows should come here, and if we have to pay a Jeff Dunham $20,000 to be here, but I can put 1,000 people in that theater,
That's
I
right.
wanna pay him.
That's
Why
right.
lose $20,000?
I have no problem with that. I think it's,
Well, we need to convey that next month.
Next month you should all be here.
decrease the entertainment we have now and increase the quality of entertainment.
It's different quality of, we have a more diverse type of resident, I believe, and less people that want to go to the theater.
Yes. I
So we
agree.
got to bring them in here by doing something different. If we got to give them a hot dog to come in, I don't know. We got to do something. Yes, Patricia?
Several women that came into my office, the religious women, said, why can't we have movies like Sound of Music or Golden Pond? They want to see something that is not with blood and guts. I'll tell you the truth, the movies this year,
They suck.
they were terrible. I'm
But
very
that's what's
surprised.
coming out of, it's what's coming out of Hollywood.
Pardon me?
It's what's coming out of Hollywood. And we get a list from the company.
I know, but I don't like it. We don't like it. Even though it's coming out of Hollywood, the thing is that the people that you have I'm not approved, but I'm gonna walk out if every other word is F.
Yeah, I wouldn't even go, I agree with
Blood
you.
and all that kind of stuff. We don't, a lot of people don't wanna see that anymore. You know, I guess when you get old, you mellow out a little bit.
Yes, but again, we are a very diverse community. We have over 2,000, we've sold over 2,000 units in the past 2 years. I'm not sure how many, are they more in the 55 and up, you know, or are they, so the younger people, and especially the males, like some of those movies, so we have to show a cross-section of everything, but it's what's coming out of Hollywood. It's what's coming out of
I
there.
understand what you're saying, but we really
Someone's-
need a
yeah.
bigger diversity because what's coming out of Hollywood is a lot of trash. Am I wrong?
So what you'd like to see is some of the older happy movies
A
like
lot of people.
Sound of Music and maybe some Alfred Hitchcock movies and,
Even younger
some-
people, I was going to suggest to her, but I won't be here next month, I have to go, I'll be away from, no, I should tell Abby, I want to.
Patricia, I know.
I'll pass that on to Abby,
Why not
or
see-
somebody can bring it up as a point of discussion next month when she's here.
Yeah.
Why not see if they can have like a retro,
For
month,
one in a month?
a month, or even one month?
Well, we tried that several years ago, where the Italian club, we brought in and we did a theater night here,
Yeah.
just watching old movies. Eva gave us some movies and we were shut down. Even though they were our movies, we were somehow infringing on somebody's
Copyright.
right, copyright.
Yeah.
Okay.
You gotta pay the.
But we used to get 40, 50, 60 people.
Yeah, I remember.
And some of the movies were very good. I don't have a problem with a retro night, you know.
Yeah, you can arrange that through the distributor,
Yes.
Yes.
right?
I-
So
my-
that it would be legal. As far
My,
as fees
my
go.
personal feeling is that Abby has to consider detaching this Century Village from the other two. Go a different
I
route.
definitely agree, and I agree with you as far as getting somebody like, the ventriloquist you mentioned.
Can you speak
That
up
would
in
be, that would be.
All right.
awesome.
Bob, speak up.
Okay, all right, let's,
Don't forget next month when you're all here to say that. Mrs. Perry said when she's here, nobody says it.
well,
My
we'll
daughter
say
is
it.
here next month, but I won't be here.
She would have been here today, but she's out of town.
But
so-
she's having a meeting with us on the 13th,
Yes.
aside from the operation.
Right. All right, updates. Lagoon Project, Dan, you're up.
Okay, I was gonna.
I'm following the directions.
I was just gonna let her finish up with the monies here because the HVAC is pretty good, so.
Well,
I'm through. I'm done.
All right, okay. The Lagoon Project, like I said last month, I had met with the county water district there for the county, and basically our attorney has enough information, okay, to be able to hand over to your attorney now, okay, because we've done as far as we can with the legwork.
Wait a
All
minute. Bob, I'm sorry to interrupt. Are we talking about the North Lagoon?
Yeah, North and South Lagoon,
Actually,
South
both,
Lagoon
so
dredging?
yes,
both Culvert and the lagoon.
okay. This is the North and South Lagoon where the reclaimed water comes in, on the, okay, and also.
South Lagoon is on the south side of the property, north
But he's
canal.
talking about both.
They're both together linked with the same property name that is not connected to any of us, okay, to be able to do any work on that,
Right.
so. Well, I can tell you, the best thing that we could do is have Laura talk to your attorney, okay? And you guys be present because I'll be there too, because we run into, and she's found enough information, okay, that really could help us, okay, moving forward. They don't take care of these types of, the water district does not take care of these type of drainage ditches. That's what we're calling them, and we're not calling canals due to the fact that they're not part of also the agreement, the original agreement.
We think that when Centerville Development sold Century Utilities to the county, that it included that North Canal. And so far, they're not admitting to that, but we've pretty much backed them into a corner, I guess, to the point that they really need to admit they need to take care of it, right, Dan?
Yes.
All right, so the South Lagoon, which is the stretch that goes into Okeechobee Boulevard and was approved in the previous meeting, has that project been put on hold? South Lagoon is the water body that goes from.
The Weir Canal then.
Okeechobee
No, we're
Boulevard.
talking about the weir. Okay, that's
Yeah.
something different. Okay, that's where, okay. I'm talking about right now is the two,
Just the north.
just the north of where the,
Okay.
okay, so that's what we're talking about right now.
Alright.
Nothing to do with that portion of it. But, like I said, like Monica had mentioned, we have enough information, okay? Their attorney is the one that we have, their tongue twisting right now, okay? Because of how the wording of what she found out, okay? So it's, again, she can only go so far because we don't represent, the canals are under your agreement, okay? So she's going to want to talk with your attorney, make appointments so that we can sit down and really hand over all the information that we found. We stood there for a whole day looking through files, okay? And we found all these things together. Laura found what she needed, okay, to present to them, okay? And she made copies. It was really funny because their attorney did not go through all those things, so we had to give the copies to them, okay, of what we found, okay? So I think with what she found, okay, on there, and she's saying that she's the attorney, I'm not, I'm looking at whatever I was looking at, the wording of how that's worded, looks to our favor, okay, but it's something that somebody has to fight, you know, and put a little political pull into it, okay? But that's a lot of money out there to put a little political pull to try to fix it up, okay?
Dan, how are we set for the South Lagoon project from the Weir to Okeechobee Boulevard?
If I'm not mistaken, we have under contract, right? This is for the weir, for the drainage, right? It's under the contract.
This is meeting
Final contracting, okay? So it's going through the process, which she has to send up to our attorneys because it is over a certain amount. Okay? We last met and we talked about the saunas and which type of saunas, if we were going to go infrared or if we were going to go back to the same type of system. It's your choice. I'm not putting my opinion into all these things. I just, you know the problems that we have, but again, there's things that we can do to make it safer. But no matter what, we got a piece of equipment that heats up, and if somebody wants to do something stupid, they could do it, you know? And if they're more responsible, hopefully, in the past, we could put the same system back in. I know that I talked to Monica, we first received a check that wasn't enough, and then I don't know where we're at.
No, we received it.
Okay, so
We
we received
received the full amount of the estimated cost to replace the sauna and the repair work that needed to be done, less the $5,000 deductible.
Right.
Okay.
Okay, and that's the original type, right? Am I correct?
Same thing.
Yeah, if you go to the
That's
other one, it's a
what
little
I'd like
bit
to
more
see.
costly. It's $7,000 more than the other. But again, remember, we had decided that you would make a decision here today,
Okay,
so that we could move
I
forward
would-
Which type of
I would
heating?
like to put that, a motion to keep the original type, all right, and not go through that cost of $7,000. I'd like to keep the original type and have them put some kind of,
We would do what we talked about, some
Yeah.
kind of boards to try to keep it, you know, so that
So that
we
they
could service it, but at the same time, it's harder for them to hang
Right.
something on it.
Right, and I hear a question out there, what's the difference? So what we have now, the type of heating element, can achieve up to about 185 degrees. The other choice is infrared, and that's more expensive of the two. So what we have now to replace it is 40,000, and then to go with infrared, it jumps up to 47. Infrared reaches temperatures of about 135 degrees.
Yes.
In your opinion, how many people do you think from the village use the sauna?
I couldn't say. I can say that I'm talking to people regularly, both men and women, because they're very disappointed and upset that both saunas are closed. They think that we shut the men's sauna down because we want to punish them because they haven't been following the rules as posted. Because, well, beer cans and the leaves and, you know, one resident did give me information that in other countries, it's not that they're drinking beer, they're adding it to the element.
That's ridiculous.
So,
Yeah.
hey, listen, we find branches with, you know, they're beating themselves to raise their circulation. And we also find bags, Ziploc bags of just dried leaves. They're adding them to the element. You know, this is what, but we have, again, very diverse group, so, you know, maybe Russia does it a little bit differently, and over here does it a little differently, and they bring it here, it reminds them of home. This is what we're dealing with.
But don't you have explicit instructions?
I most certainly do.
So,
Those rules are stenciled right on the doors as you're going in, but I find that most people don't even bother to read the rules. Those rules are more for security. When they say you can't do that, and they say, where does it say that, they get the point. And I'm gonna be redoing the rules, because there's more things we need to add for some of the things that have happened over the last few years.
Okay, and I would suggest that you put them in different languages.
I don't have enough room for
I'm
that.
serious. I'm serious, because we have enough people
No,
here.
no.
We have enough people here that do not read English, but do read their own language.
Tough, this is
All
America.
right, well, one at a time, please. Olga.
If you put rules there, could you let the people know that if they abuse the rules, that you are going to eliminate the saunas?
I would rather
Make that threat.
I would rather suspend the people rather than take it away from those that do follow the rules. However, we cannot put cameras in there, and it's sort of like a brotherhood where, you know, they know who might be doing it, but they don't give up names. I have the same thing at the bocce area.
I have a suggestion. How about having them sign a waiver?
They do sign a waiver, they have to
No,
sign a
every time
release
they
and
go
hold
in.
harmless.
Every time they walk in, they gotta put in the time, the date, and the time that they're
That
interacting.
doesn't mean a thing.
My suggestion, I know you don't wanna do it to Big Brother, but that would, if you have a fire, you know who the last person that was in there.
You know, on the back of the ID cards, we have a barcode, we'll call it a barcode. I'd like to activate that and put in a swipe system that in order to get in there, they'd have to use the card to do that, but somebody could just stand there and wait for somebody to go in and go in right behind them. So again, it's why we never instituted it at the gates at the pools, because people do that all the time. They circumvent, they find ways, and that seems to be the way of the world these days. It's not that we have rules, let's follow them, how can we get around them?
Yep, we know that.
Yeah. So we got David.
Not bringing up the cost, but which of these two systems is the safest?
Opinion? I know that Boca has the infrared.
Listen, heat, of course, you know, talk to your doctor. I'm not a medical person, so I can't tell you, but I know that if you go into extreme heat, you should notify your doctor if you have any conditions. Where the heat differences are, as you can see, from 135 to 185, so that's a big difference.
I'm not talking about individual getting the heat. I'm talking about what is the safest for the structure.
Well, in the case of not throwing water onto it, not putting leaves that will burn, the infrared would do that, yes.
It would be what?
It would be safer for the
Infrared?
yes, compared to what they're doing inside the other system.
So, I mean, how long have we had these saunas? They go back, are they original too?
Original, probably to.
So we're talking, well, so that was built in 1999, the Hastings Clubhouse? So I think this is the first time something like this has happened.
And we only have recently started having problems because of, excuse the term, idiots that want to put stuff on it, all right?
Well, let's put this to rest. Bob, why don't you make your motion?
I did make a motion.
Make your motion.
My motion is to go with the original type of sauna.
Okay, do
What
we
we
have,
currently have.
That's correct.
Heating element we currently have.
we need a second and then we can discuss it.
I'll say.
All right. Patricia, there's a second. All right, do we have any discussion on the motion? Go ahead, Sean.
I just want to know, have they ever investigated the saunas with the ceiling heat
That's correct.
instead of the floor heat?
That's the infrared.
That's
Say again?
That's the infrared.
Yes.
That's the infrared.
That's
Yeah.
infrared.
Yes, that's the option that we're giving you.
That's the
Infrared versus what we currently have.
That's the ceiling heat, right?
Yeah.
It's equivalent to the heating lamps you put in your bathroom.
That's what I'm for.
gotta
Okay.
remember one thing, there's a lot of people here with high blood pressure, and they don't have the common sense.
So we have a motion, we have a second. Is there any other discussion? The motion is to maintain the current type of system that what this saunas have. No more discussion?
The only discussion I have is that saunas are meant to have heat.
Right.
The-
You made your motion, we have a second. The
135
committee's gonna vote on it.
Okay, I just want
135
to
degrees.
What? All right, go ahead.
Just so, for information wise, just again, I want to give everybody, the infrared, also the sauna is smaller. It's not as large as this one. Okay, so I just want everybody, when you see it, it is a smaller container, you know, okay?
So it would be a
It
smaller.
will not hold the same amount of people.
It would be a smaller container, or whatever you wanna call it,
That's what we call
and
it.
for a lot more money, I say no.
Oh, you already made
Well,
your motion.
all right, you got your motion. Got any more discussion before Joanne takes a vote?
Take a vote.
Read the motion.
Okay.
Bob Rivera made a motion to go with the original type of sauna for replacements. And I'm gonna make that plural because there's two, isn't there?
Yes, men's and women's.
Okay,
We're only doing one. That's-
Right, we're repairing the one that was damaged.
so we're gonna
But
vote
if,
that.
I mean, logic would say that if we're gonna choose, whatever we choose for the one
Yes,
is
it's
what
gonna be
we
for
get
the
the time will be for the other.
Right,
Yes.
but right now, we're
Yes.
discussing the current, whatever's in place. If it doesn't pass, then we're gonna have to have a motion on the second. Go ahead, Joanne, I'm sorry.
Okay, John Gregg,
No.
Ruth Dries,
No,
Joyce Reese,
no,
John Hess,
No.
Olga Wolkenstein,
No,
Bobby Levin,
no,
David Boaz,
No,
John Granaccio,
No.
Stuart Richland,
yes.
Fausto,
Yes,
Patricia,
Yes.
Bob, and I'm gonna vote yes as well. There were 5 for and 8 against. The motion does not
Hey,
carry.
we got people that don't even use it, so.
Yes.
go ahead, John.
I make a motion that we accept the infrared.
I second it.
Okay. Motion was made by John, seconded by Joyce, to replace the current units with infrared units. That's the motion. Right, John?
Yes, sir.
Any discussion?
We beat it to death.
Yeah.
Get, Patricia, go ahead.
I said before, I don't know if you heard me, I hear what they're saying, and I know they want that, but you have to remember, there are a lot of people living here, I mean a lot, that they have high blood pressure, they're gonna go in there, it's a higher heat, is that correct?
No, not the infrared.
no.
No, it's the reverse. What we have now can achieve temperatures of 185. With the infrared, it'll be about 135.
Right.
But they go in there to sweat. That's the point, is to sweat.
Call the vote.
Okay,
Call the vote. Now,
discussion.
I'm gonna go ahead and call the vote. John Gregg
yes.
made I'm sorry, I'm just
Oh,
gonna
sorry.
read it. You made, and it was seconded by Joyce Reese to replace the current saunas with the infrared system.
Spend another $40,000 each, go ahead.
Easy, Bob.
John Gregg, yes.
Yes.
Ruth Dries, Joyce Reese,
Yes.
John Hess,
Yes.
Olga Wolkenstein,
yes.
Bobby Levin, David Boaz,
Yes.
Dominic Granaccio,
Yes.
Stuart Richland,
No.
Fausto Fabro,
No.
Patricia Caputo,
No,
Bob Rivera,
Hell no.
and I'm gonna vote yes. 9 yes and 4 no, the motion carries.
Okay.
I only got one thing to say. For all you people that decide.
Bob, you're on camera, Bob.
Please, I know we're on camera. For all you people that sit there and say we're wasting money on this or that, to hell with you, because you just threw away $80,000.
Okay. All right. Dan?
See, this is why we
All right.
should call that.
Okay, that's it. We're gonna move on. Dan?
Okay. The last one is the, oh yes, we already discussed the culvert, it was a mistake, it's in that same lagoon.
Right.
Of the property that is not owned by any of us. So, I think the fire line backflow is that we're, moving forward, we got a better, price from another vendor, okay, to replace the valve instead of replacing the whole thing, and that cost, right here.
Originally, we got a price of over $9,000, and now we have a price that comes in,
5,000.
right,
$5,035.
so that's saving a nice chunk of change.
And we have to do it, it's part of the fire sprinkler system, okay, so the valve is completely eroded on the bottom side of it, it has to be replaced, okay.
Mhm.
Any questions?
Oh, how about the HV change orders?
Okay,
That's you.
that's me. I'm gonna go with, I'll let you start it off.
Okay, this is, we're gonna be taking a quick look, and Dan, I will briefly explain, and then Dan can explain further. The last report in your packet of reports today, it says HVAC project cost at the top. I laid out for you what we have paid to date, as of yesterday, when it was paid, what was paid.
What's that?
So the total payments were $3,240,000. Not yet paid is what I would assume would be the final draw under the contract, which also includes what we hope to be, will be the final change order, as well as the balance to finish of 102, plus the change order, I'm sorry, the draw number 8 that I already have, but we have not yet paid. We've been trying to hold off. It's $285,000. Once that's paid, the balance to finish is the $102,000. So total amount that we expect to have to pay CJM under the contract is $388,000. That would bring us to $3.6 million. Below that, I put a summary of reconciling that $3.6 million, which is the original contract with CJM, the total change orders today, the permit fee, the contract with Debonair, which was the cooling towers, interest and arbitration fees and costs. So that shows you how the $3.6 million will break out when all is said and done. And because I know it's a concern, the bottom part of this report is addressing the status of the reserve funds. As of yesterday, we had $569,000 still remaining in the reserve funds. Once we pay CJM the $388,000, we expect between what we will have done in our collections at the end of this calendar year, that we should have around 600 and, I'm sorry, the collections between now and December should be $627,000 for both the windstorm replenishment and the infrastructure reserve, so that at the end of the year, say December 31, we expect, of course, barring having to spend any money for anything else, that we not anticipated to be around $807,000. So I know that's a lot to take in, but you can review that later, because I know Dan is anxious to talk about the HVAC project.
The other thing is, it's just as a reminder, when we were going for budget, and if you remember with the report, we had a contingency plus We were, well, what was the actual change order percentage?
15%.
15% on the contingency.
Is what they estimated.
It's what we estimated was 15%, and our change order came in at 12%. Now, if we were to put this into the budget like we were gonna do in the beginning of the year, this all would have been in this, the contingency and whatever is left in here, okay? So, the only thing that I have to say on this portion is that the last change order, and this is dragging, the job is dragging, and none of the contractors want this, believe me. They're all, right now, fed up to being in here, because anything that happens, I'm just making them do the repairs. I don't care if it's because it won't go onto warranty until they leave out of here, but the problem is that they're, of course, losing money as they keep on dragging, because as the pieces come in, they have to come back, okay, and do these tests that they have to do, because the engineer has to certify every piece of equipment that is supplying air, and the right pressures and the right CFMs have to come out before they give their okay to all this thing. And of course, the theater is what's holding us up right now. Pieces are just continuing to trickle in. I have a piece right now that was told to me with a shocker. It's the center unit for the backstage that we won't get that piece. So that's a filter grid and some kind of a louver, okay, until August. Okay? The rest of the other pieces, okay, for the rest of the theater will be in place. So that unit, possibly I could do it, and it's up to the engineer to decide if he will sign off on that or not, okay, for that particular air handler up there. But I would say that we're 80% of the pieces. Nobody wants to continue to keep coming back in here until they get 100%, because we're having them do some other little things. For the problems that we're having inside here with some of these valves and some of these heaters, as they're doing the test and balancing, they're repairing, okay? That report is going to the engineer. When the engineer has 100%, he will then sign off, come and check every single of the units, okay, and sign off on it, okay? So we're, unfortunately, when we got this last change order was
September.
which was a change order which was not even of materials, it was because of the labor costs, okay, of them dragging the job over double the time period that it took. I'm trying to right now continue to beat them down. I'm not getting any more of that. I told them we just got to finish this crazy thing and get out of here, okay? So, and that's where we have our hands tied, is with the carrier parts, okay, that is dragging in slowly, you know?
Are these parts or pieces that you're talking about manufactured overseas or in the United States?
Overseas. Nothing from carrier, that especially from these 3 units, okay? They're the only units that are different than all the other units that we have inside here. They're more of a specialty unit, okay, ordered, and then those are the parts that are coming in from different parts of the country, different parts of other countries, you know?
So what will happen if something stops working? We'll have to order it from an overseas company and then wait for it to be produced and then shipped back here, and so you add up all the time from the order to the time that we get it. It would be, could be considerable.
What the market is out there, and what I've talked to these larger air conditioning companies, just to let you know, if you lose something big, a chiller or anything that in any of these buildings right now, the time of that turnaround, instead of taking 30 to 90 days or something, you might have to, of course, the rental companies are going to have a great time with these big, gigantic, portable air conditioning units that they will hook up on the outside and cost you more down the road until this chain of materials. We get that. There's nothing out there today that will be in stock. Everything has to be ordered, okay, and made, okay, especially those particular units. Some of the other stuff on the air handlers, but the chillers themselves, some of the parts come from different countries. The parts don't come from here. Carrier, and I told you this about 6 months ago, they had a shop in Ukraine making some of the motor parts, okay? They had to, of course, take time to change that and put it someplace else. Imagine a big, gigantic factory, okay, having to change that, put it in another location to produce that product, okay? Or find another area to produce that product, to bring it here. And that's what the industry is getting into. And it's more into the specialties, okay? But I'm going to say just even cement products, okay, are causing a problem too for, I'm doing a pool down in Pembroke Pines, and I have to order that ahead of time, the square footage that I would need, okay, put it down. And it's just the way it is. I've never had to do this ever before, but that's America. We never waited. Today we're waiting, that's it. We have to be more patient than we ever been before. And it's costing us more. That's the other thing, unfortunately.
couple of questions. When were you made aware of this change order? Did I hear September?
Yes.
And now it's 5 months later and we're finally being informed about it?
No, some of these change orders were already done during the transition of, from when from paying, when Mark was paying for all this and for. But the change orders I have right now, if you want to sit down with, I would want you to sit down with I have the engineer, okay, that approved 100% of the change orders, okay? They had to approve and go through the engineer on these change orders, you know? That
There's
was-
actually 8 change orders.
But they were all approved by the engineer, okay? It wasn't approved by Dan Cruz or anybody else, because we had to legally do this all properly, you know? I've been wanting to sit down with the board for a while. Just this last one was the 130 was with and we basically went to our attorney and said that if we tried to fight that change order, okay, it could be worse for us, okay? Because even though that change order was in September, there's still this time sequence that they can still charge us for their labor, additional labor.
Were these just equipment increases or were there actual engineering changes?
There was some engineering changes, okay? And there was some, the majority was equipment, like let's say for instance, yeah, but they don't get broken down, that's the problem. Yeah, it's not detail. I'll give you an example. There was an exhaust fan in the top floor here in the bathrooms, okay? It was an old exhaust fan inside there. It was not even scoped out in the engineering, but we had to tie it in with the computer system to be able to shut down, and it was belt driven above, which the belt was missing anyhow. Nobody even knew it existed up there. So we replaced that and installed new ductwork with it. So everything that you see up in this upper attic, it's been replaced. Everything is new. Everything's tied in through the computer system and reading, okay? For that. So yes, that's just one example. Then we had vents that we had installed, okay, properly, that weren't installed properly, air return vents, okay, that were not in the engineering report, but after the engineer came back and said, no, we needed to vent it properly, okay? So nothing that was done, and the other, some change orders were these new units that came in, okay? The way they came in today and how you purchase this, okay? Before, like I said, you would purchase, like you would purchase a car. Before you could purchase an item in air conditioning and everything would be inclusive. Today is like purchasing a car. If you want, you know, the bright little knobs, if you want this on top, you have to pay for everything now, okay? So when they ordered this thing, okay, some pieces were missing on this product. They went to the manufacturer, and a lot of it was actually fought by the engineer and the contractor through the carrier, okay? This is a thing that you didn't see, but we were fighting with the carrier, okay? And we didn't want to get charged for some of this, and some of it we were. So we balanced it out and worked it out, okay, where some of it we didn't pay, and some of it we had to pay, you know? But it was a big fight, and I was trying to get this thing done too. It's pushing this as fast as possible because it was costing us every month that we were sitting here, you know? But it's, I have everything written down and documented, and I could also sit with you with the engineer and explain every single one of them in detail.
So the original engineer, I have an original hard copy,
Yes.
probably one of the few that are around. So that engineer that we paid for, the consultant, assumes no responsibility for any of the changes, engineering changes.
We can bring that up. I've already fought this, okay? It's a tough scenario to fight, you know? There's something in all their, and architects too. I mean,
I understand.
It's something that you just, if it's illegitimate, I look at things, okay, because I'm in that field. Yes, I know you make money in change orders, but I look at it also that we had it in a contingency, okay, to stay underneath that, and we did, you know? The only thing, we would have stayed way under it if I didn't have to pay this labor, okay, that it dragged out this long. We would have been $100,000 cheaper, okay? So if you look at the amount of change orders that we had, it was minimal for the job, very minimal. And dealing with this, the big projects, it was. I mean, if it's only a couple $100,000 for closely to a $4 million job, and a building this old, we were very fortunate that we didn't find anything else that we were tearing the walls down and stuff. And we tried to take a lot of, the engineer tried to redo certain things. Like right now, I'm having a little issue, okay, I don't know how bad of an issue it is. But right now, when they do their test and balance, there's the design of the airflow in the party room, okay, to put in that backflow. It's still not meeting our requirements yet. So they're sitting there trying to figure this out, what it's gonna take to make that happen, you know? So, and I could have, you can sit with me and we have those meetings every Tuesday. If you want to come there, I have the CJM, and we sit down every Tuesday right here and we go over everything. And you could ask your questions through there. I have no problem if you come into that meeting, you know? Because I pushed, that's why I got it right now, where the manufacturer has to, I don't want the vendor's word anymore. I want the manufacturer that we're not having, why we're not having this material delivered, you know? Any other questions? So what is the bottom line on one?
Bottom line what?
Everything's set.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think you're done.
I think,
Well, there's two things. One I didn't put on the budget. That was just something that you had asked with the fence over in Hastings, the replacement. And you had asked for a price for 5-foot off center instead of 8-foot.
The poles, yes.
The posts. So where the 8-foot price, we had two companies, Budget Fence, which we have a lawsuit going on there. And then we had Martin Fence that came in at $13,160, and that was 8-foot. So to go to 5-foot, Martin Fence jumps from $13,160 to $18,017. And if we budget, we're there at 96, that jumped to $11,350.
Eva, we're in business with budget. Can you share what the nature of the lawsuit is about?
The nature of the lawsuit is that one of their employees encouraged one of our residents to walk through an area that was not clear for walking, and the resident fell, and then there's a lawsuit that's been filed, and that's the issue.
Okay.
One biggest mistake.
it wasn't the owners, usually the, that's probably an employee that said the wrong thing.
Wasn't a workmanship thing, that's fine.
Yeah,
No.
That's really what we after, okay.
No. So I don't know if you want us to just move forward with the 8-foot off center because it is less money, or if you'd want us to increase that.
Where is this fence?
It's over in the Hastings.
Hastings North Perimeter Fence, we have all kinds of.
All right, the reason we went with 5-foot on center, at first it was a mistake. It was a
Can you
boo-boo
speak in
on
the
my.
microphone?
Yeah, sure.
What was I saying?
I don't have it on. Can you hear me now?
How about now?
Yes.
All right, so the original reason we got to 5 on center is, I made a mistake, I wasn't paying attention, and then it turned out we liked the boo-boo.
Stronger.
It's stronger and it looks more substantial, so we've been doing that ever since. That's the reason for going 5 on center, just so that the committee understands. What we're talking about is the interval of the posts, the vertical posts. So a 6-foot on center would be a post every 6 feet, 8-foot would be every 8 feet, 5-foot, it adds rigidity to the fence. That's really all we're talking. So the question is the 5-foot on center standard appropriate for this?
What's the length of the fence that you're putting up?
No, I'm gonna say,
300, so it's 300 feet of chain link and a 6-foot height,
Yeah.
300 feet.
Okay.
yeah, all right, and it's in that backside by.
And it's in a backside that, I mean, all the fencing we've done over the past year and a half has been in areas that have, it's touchable by the public, and this is not. This is pretty much, will never be hopped in the history of the fence.
I don't
In
think
your
so.
case,
no.
it's very visible, it looks nice because it keeps a nice line.
Yep, sure does.
Back there, it's by the, what do you call it, the reserve back there, okay?
Right.
Where that fence is in pretty decent shape. shape because no bushes. The only thing that happened there is they let trees grow too close to it, which we are now chopping off completely, okay?
Well-
And just putting this,
There's a residential neighborhood behind it. They were the ones that were planting things to try to hide our existence. And then they planted it too close and it just came growing through and now it's tearing apart the fence, you know, so.
So you're asking us to decide whether you want the 8-foot on center versus 5-foot
Well,
on
the
center?
prices we got originally were for 8 foot. And then Fausto just asked us to get a price on what it would be if we did 5 foot.
And the difference in price is?
$5,000.
Right, right.
$5,000, which is on 300 feet, that's ridiculous.
All right, so you want us to blow this off, or you want a motion and make a decision?
Do you want us to move forward with the 8
Does
feet?
anybody want to, does anybody want to make a motion that we change from 8 foot to 5 foot on the replacement effect?
8 foot's
Is there a second?
Why not, you blow other money?
No second. Motion dies.
Motion
Okay,
dies, let's move on.
move on.
Okay, so last is all right, the gym. We've been talking to you about the gym, and this is just about not relocating it, it is relocating it. We talked about moving a wall, and pushing a wall 15 feet into aerobics. And we went over there and thought, why don't we just flip-flop the 2 spaces? So that's what I handed out for you to look at, the difference of the size and how much we would gain for the gym if we put it into aerobics and put aerobics into where the gym is now. All right, so,
the only cost in there is, of course, it's bigger, so we can space everything out. We could basically put the treadmills in a safer location. This is where we had a trip and fall happen because they continue to keep moving and sliding if you don't push them over the outlets, okay? The mechanic that's out there fixing this now, this equipment, had informed us that they could put something on these treadmills to train for both back, as long as you have some kind of wall in front, sort of like this hip wall in the front. So it's about just basically the electric for the 14 treadmills. The rest is spaced out using the same carpet or material that's out, flooring that's there, you know. So then the other side is just some mirrors down the road, but it can be just done as needed, you know.
What about moving the TVs?
The TVs would also be moved over to that location.
so that means additional cabling in the ceiling to drop down.
That's what I'm saying. It's additional labor, it's additional material.
Yes.
Do we have a magic number on this?
No, we just wanted to see if it's okay to move forward to get ideas of the pricing.
Patricia, you had your hand up.
Yeah, I know, I have to, what you're saying, but don't you have to put more outlets in the aerobics room than you have now?
No, it's the same that we have right now. We're putting 14, whatever the ones that have outlets, there's 14 treadmills.
14 treadmills.
That's how we would put it. We would take out the ones that are over there and bring the circuits to the ones that are there. Now, again, we're only asking to see if you would like this idea because it'll give you more space than there is right now. We walk through there, and then for future growth if you needed to.
And Dan, you see a liability issue here as the reason for moving?
There is a liability. We already got a nice trip and fall right now, which I didn't realize until now we have our maintenance people, or I think it's the athletic people, moving these treadmills back up over the outlets they're supposed to be. At least making sure that they don't get away from that because they're right underneath, and if they slide backwards, the outlet's right there with support, and that's what supposedly she tripped over. We're not sure, but that's what.
All right, so do you need a decision from us, or do you just report it?
Just to see, the decision is to look into, okay, what it would cost to move it over there, you know?
John, you had your hand up?
Are you gonna move the stage?
Yes.
Yes.
Everything goes. You're
Yeah,
gonna get
Yes.
that room,
Of course, they should look.
and you're gonna take 15 feet of the weight room,
No.
the present weight room.
This is in place of moving the wall,
Yeah, we're not
which would
taking,
cost more money
Yeah.
to do.
we're just swapping.
Right.
Swapping,
It's just flip-flopping the 2 spaces. We would move the stage, okay? What would we do with that alcove where the stage is, where residents have been asking forever to have a stretching area? That would become the stretching area with some bars. I see where people try to do that, and I've got handprints all over the mirrors as they try to hold on while they do some stretches, which is recommended if you want to go out. You should be stretching before you play tennis or any of those other games to avoid injury. So we've already decided that the space that we were in was too small, and we brought this idea to the committee probably in 2000, I believe it was 2018,
If we're gonna-
actually.
If you're gonna investigate, I have no problem investigating it, but
let's do it right this time and not, you know, let's have the TVs hooked up right and the whole 9 yards.
Well, that's the whole
That
idea.
takes cable, which
Well,
to date, the committee has not given me money to do. When we were with Comcast, they gave us that option, that service for free over there.
Right.
But we are using that Roku, and it is an absolute nightmare. And the residents are very upset because we're trying to constantly find channels that just stay on the TV.
We just redid the one in Boca. You have the opportunity to look pretty decently and for growth down if you do change the rooms over that. And you make it safer for the residents. And again, we talked about this, about giving you the option again, when we hook up these cabling with the T, how much it would cost. So we'll get the costs all together, and then you can make this decision, you know, to see if you want to move forward in that direction. Because I know there's expenses to everything, and I was telling her, as long as you say yes, at least that gives me the okay to get the plans written up. That's free from the gym layout, okay, and then the cost of the electricians and the ceiling replacements up there, just to make the place look good if we're going to change over to that side.
And I think if you're gonna do that, I think you should look into seeing about putting the proper cable, so if you don't have to use.
Yeah, that's what we
Yes,
were
we-
going to look into.
Absolutely.
Make it all one.
Yes, yes, and listen, we're gonna do it the right way. You know, the gym is a gray color, so eventually we'd wind up painting that and make it lighter for our aerobics users, you know, but it's necessary, it's crowded in there.
You need to put it underwater, so nobody could fall down. John, you had your hand up.
I make a motion to go ahead and go forward and find out how much it's gonna cost.
I second it.
Okay, good. So you got your approval
Thank you.
to look into it.
And that,
Bob, you had your hand up.
Everybody, I believe everybody here is on social security, am I correct?
I'm still paying.
I would assume,
Yeah,
I would
getting
assume,
raises
you are, except maybe Donald. All right, well, you're eligible. Anyway, it doesn't matter, you don't live here. Why don't we look into something like, you know, Social Security pays through Medicare, pays for silver sneakers, whatever they call that thing. Why don't we see about getting some of that money and having our gym be a silver sneaker facility?
Doesn't work that way.
Bob, my understanding of Silver Sneakers and similar programs is they're in medical providers' facilities, like Kano, for instance.
Amanda has silver sneakers.
I mean, you go to just about any physical fitness place.
Physical therapy, exactly right, doctor's offices, it's not a recreation.
Wow.
All right. I have, if you're done, I have one request. On the certificate of occupancy, okay, we need a change. This is requested by our investigations department. On the line where you have to put the person's name,
You want more space.
if there's any way they could extend that by 1.5 inches to 2 inches, because you're putting two people's name, and some of these names have 42 characters, and what they're doing, they're typing over the words on there.
Got it. Well, what I can see right away is if you took a word number out and put the symbol, that would give us a little bit
Yeah.
more space. And
Well, if you move that whole row down and just move, there's room on the very last sentence.
Okay.
If you move it all down and just leave that, I think that would work, I don't know. And also, when she does the change on the bottom, where it says the last update, it says 2020. Can you change that? Because we have people that have a different update that was done with 21, and they're bringing those in and they're saying, this is not the right one.
we'll change that to the 2023, but I also know that you probably have buildings that have masters, and they have it in their files, and so how do we, when we redid these forms, and also provided explanations of what each choice was.
Right. Well, we finally got that all straightened out, and then
Okay.
once you give us,
Yes,
that's what the investigations department, once the investigation has gone through, that's what they will issue.
okay, so I'll make those two changes. We'll give them more space for the names, and then we'll change the year, that it's the latest version or edition.
Exactly.
Okay. Okay, no problem.
Not unreasonable.
Not at all. Anything else?
We have any discussion, questions, answers? Yes, John?
I'll make a motion to close down.
Okay, we already
I have a
motion
second.
on the floor.
Thank everybody.
All right,
We
thank
already
you.
have a motion on the floor. What motion?
All right, 2:20, the meeting is officially closed.
You had a motion on the floor, you never went through with it. John had a motion on the floor prior to this second motion.
No,
you
that's,
just
that's,
had.
that's, it was all right.
The motion was to
For them to go ahead and get us.
let them go ahead and expand.
You didn't need a motion.
Everybody said yes.